Hello and welcome to another episode of Into the Afroverse with your host, William Jones. But once again, we're looking to take Black folks into the future. Now, if you know anything about me, two of my passions are, in addition to history, I should say, two of my additional passions are history, comic books, and films. I guess that makes three. So history, comic books, and films. So today, I have the pleasure of being joined by two individuals in two of those realms. Today, we have Roosevelt Pitt, the owner of Amara LLC, and he's also the producer of Purge comic book series as well as the Amaraverse. And we're also joined by Frederick Emmerson, owner of TEG Studios, and he's a co-producer on Purge Techno City live action movie. Gentlemen, welcome.
Welcome. I appreciate the invite. Glad to be here. This, of course, is Roosevelt Pitt. Thank you for having me.
This is Frederick. Thank you so much for having us on. It's exciting. Thank you so much.
Excellent. So let's just get right into it. Like I said, I'm excited because I love some comic books. I love some movies. So can you give us a little more about yourselves in terms of what you do?
Well, again, this is Roosevelt Pitt, owner of Amara Entertainment LLC, the creator and producer of Purge, the series of comic books. I've been around since 1993. I've always had a passion for superheroes, but throughout my journey, I found that many of the Black superheroes that I did enjoy or read truly didn't have the, let's say, the makeup that I wanted to see in Black superheroes. Many of the characters that I came across as a youth was stereotypically written, whether they were typically thugs or they were heroes who only did it for the money. Not many of them had the characteristics that you would find in like a Superman or a Batman who was rich, who was powerful, who had a certain particular type of aura that they exuded, not only in their particular world that they resided, but to the fans, who respected their particular value system. And I wanted to be able to take that type of mindset and apply it to Black superheroes, which is where Purge came out of that need. And since 1993, Purge pretty much has been going strong. And as you'll find out further as we have our conversation during this interview, that Purge now, 30 years in the making, is on the precipice of having a live action movie. So I'm excited about that. But that's pretty much who I am as a creator, wanting to create Black superheroes as leads, primarily Black superheroes, that promote the highest value system of that a Black character can. In other words, I want to create superheroes that represent the best Blacks in America and throughout the globe have to offer.
And what about you, Frederick? What got you into filmmaking?
So my journey was a little bit different. I come from a music family that's pretty famous and has been pretty in the industry for a long time. I started out in the music business at 14 years old. So so that was my induction into the entertainment world. Right. And my experience with music videos and being on set and everything like that really piqued my interest into the world of filmmaking. So I started really the whole process when I got like 18, 19, I start writing and just I started from the ground up, being on set, being a PA, just learning every single thing I can learn about the behind the scenes on set experience, even though I was going to be in front of the cameras and stuff like that. So that's what actually got me started in my foray. And then about 2 or 3 years ago is when I really fully shifted into just creating content, short films, acting in several things. And I noticed being out here in LA that people that look like me didn't really get the same opportunities as some of my counterparts that don't look like me. I'll just put it
Right.
like that.
Right.
So I really start shifting into just, instead of begging or kind of going out there and just hoping for scraps to be thrown at me, I kind of changed my mentality into creating opportunities not only for myself, but for other people, that people of color and other people with different dynamics who may want to take their creativity and not be held back from it.
Mhm.
So I'm about 2 or 3 years in the filmmaking world, which is, it's just been a huge blast to be able to take my full creativity, full ideas, and just create something and just go from there. Hollywood is definitely different from the music business.
Right.
But there's a lot of similarities too that allow me to kind of like take a lot of my knowledge and my expertise and relationships that I've built over, oh wow, almost 20 years of being in this business, and to put towards that. And that's kind of like, we'll get into it, but that's kind of funny how that's almost how me and Roosevelt met. So yeah, so I've been in this thing for a while now.
Yeah, no, that actually leads to what I was going to ask next. How did you two come across each other? How did you two connect?
I'll start this one off, Roosevelt, if you don't mind.
No,
So
no, sure, go ahead. I really like your version better.
so as a kid, I've always been a huge fan of comics. I've always kind of had that niche of just wanting to, acting and stuff like that has always been in me. I just didn't, being from Columbus, Ohio, from the East Coast originally, you don't really know if you can do that stuff. So my father, very young, like in the 90s, he introduced me to a lot of independent Black comics because he knew, I would mention a lot of times, hey, there's nobody that looks like me. I was young, I'm a kid, I'm somewhat like 10, 11. No one looks like me. Everybody is Superman, it's Peter Parker, it's all this. No one looks like me. As much as I love these characters, I want to be able to relate. So my father took it upon himself to start really trying to introduce me to, not only my father, but my older siblings too, really introduced me to a lot of different comics. And I stumbled upon the the former adaptation of what Purge was, and I
Wow.
was hooked. I loved
Wow.
every bit and piece of it. And when I was younger, I said to myself, if I ever get into the movie business and I'm ever lucky enough to do that, I'm going to make this movie. I don't care what anyone says. I'm going to get this movie done.
Wow.
I literally just, I had one of my people try to reach out to Roosevelt. I did too, just on the whim. I found his information out, and we literally just reached out to him. And I'm like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
So I reached out, and when he reached back out to me, we cultivated a working relationship over this past year. And it's just been amazing just learning more about this character than what even I originally knew. And this is one of my top 3 favorite characters. So getting the opportunity just to work with him on this has just been, it's been over the moon exciting.
That's amazing. So, Roosevelt, how does it make you feel knowing that you really like inspired that next generation to the point where they said, "Hey, I want to make a film with this guy," and then you two have an opportunity to meet? How does that make you feel as a creator?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest with you, William, it sometimes is undescribable, to be totally honest.
Right.
When I say I've been in it for a minute, I mean, I decided to take this journey back in the early 90s. And I'm sure other creators who may be listening to this broadcast will understand that there are ups and downs, there's peaks, there's valleys.
Mhm.
And there are times that you feel, especially as a Black creator, that you're never going to truly reach the mountaintop, simply because we do live in, just being frank, a white supremacy society where being Black, unfortunately, can hinder you in reaching success. As Frederick said, in comparing to our white counterparts,
Right.
it's just not a system that caters to us. And that being the case, Black people, specifically foundational Black Americans, have to work a lot harder to get to point B than a white person does. That's just the nature of the beast. That's the truth of the matter. However, going through that has been quite a tumultuous journey, but also very satisfying, because now I'm at a point where the universe have brought, myself and Emmerson together to bring Purge to the big screen clearly shows that we as Black people have so much strength and persistence and endurance to push through despite the odds. So when I say I feel accomplished, I feel greatly accomplished, and the fact that Purge, without even my knowledge, has reached many people, including Mr. Emerson, in a positive way to bring this about. So that clearly, far as I'm concerned, gives me a position of pride, of joy, as well as a position and a confirmation that this is going to continue to be huge and it is meant to be.
Great. So if you're just joining us, this is Into the Afroverse with William Jones on WOLB, where information is power. And we are joined by Roosevelt Pitt and Frederick Emmerson. So you were talking about, in both cases, having control of your own companies, Amara LLC and TEG Studios. Can you speak to the significance and the importance of ownership? Like today, when I'm watching commercials, for example, I'm hearing a lot of old hip hop is starting to come back in commercials being used to sell products. And I'm saying to myself, man, I hope these guys from, the 80s, early 90s, even the 70s, I hope they own this music. Can you speak to the importance of ownership and the freedom that it's giving you?
Oh, big time. I learned very early on. This is one of the things about being in the music industry actually helped me learn how important ownership is. I learned very early on by some of my mentors about owning your masters, owning your work, being able to reap the benefits of the sacrifices that you put into it without having someone tell you, this is what I want or blah, 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 how that
Right.
goes. And in the terms of something like this, it kind of fits into this too, because when me and Roosevelt first start collaborating on the Purge Techno City film, one of the big things I told him was, I want to make sure we make this film the way he envisioned it. I was like, hey, we can go to the big studios and, have them cut that check and go make this movie as fast as we can. But I'm gonna tell you, they will rip the originality from it. I'm like, if you want to, the way I always envision this is the eyes of the creator, whoever created the project can tell you the best bet. And by being able to own it, and any partners that we have begun to work with on this project, that's one of the first things I make them understand. This is a situation where we're going to call the creative shots. So long as people realize that owning your own work, it may make the journey longer.
Right.
It may be more twists and turns, but the rewards and the end of that journey is so much more rewarding because you did it on your own merit. You didn't sacrifice your beliefs or anything like that. You did it on your own. So yeah, I've been on both sides of it where I didn't own any of my stuff and we just kind of was pumping things out. And now those experiences make you realize how important it is to own your own material, own your own stuff, because like I just said, it may give you more work to do, and you have to learn on the fly. You have to educate yourself as much as possible so you don't make mistakes more than once. But once you narrow that stuff down and get all that stuff in there, I'm telling you, the rewards that you reap from that, not only financially, but knowledge wise, relationship wise, everything like that comes tenfold back to you when you own your own stuff.
And what about you, Roosevelt, the importance of ownership? Because, this is your baby.
Well, I tell you, Frederick said it very well, so I'm going to try to add to that. I think what it boils down to, William, is that, I believe that everyone has the right to create the content they envision. And no one has the right to come in and shoehorn in their own vision. Because what it ends up happening is that the product or the content that's developed never truly lives up to its true potential. And one thing that I've always been a stickler for throughout my creative career, specifically in comics, is to be true to myself, be true to my vision, and not allow anyone to take me off course. And that doesn't mean that we can't collaborate and things can't be changed, as long as the changes promote the concrete ideal and value systems of what I intend to create. As long as that is in line, then the relationship can continue to prosper. Because as Frederick and I have discussed, Purge is just the tip of the iceberg. The Afroverse is vast. And there's a lot of storyline that's interwoven, but also within those storylines is a message that I continually focus on and I share with Emmerson, again, as the foundation, is to present Black people in the greatest aspect of who we are, our creativity, our history, our mythology. All of those things are important to promote in the best possible light that I can personally create. So that in itself, continues to push me to make sure that no one usurps, the vision that I have. And I'm happy to be able to work with Frederick along those lines. He understands that. So it's definitely, if I may use a cliche, a match made in heaven.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so can you tell us a little bit about what Purge is about, the comic and the film?
Sure. Purge is a character, a hero who is technologically advanced, who struggles with a hidden past, simply because he was abducted as a youth, and through a clandestine group and a scientist was implanted with a device that supposedly was created to help enhance brain function. But this particular device actually did more than they even counted on. And the fact that they had used this particular device and experimented on not only Purge, but also numerous other Black kids around the same time that he was abducted. Mm-hmm. And as years went on, he wasn't aware that he had this particular device inside of him, literally in his neck. However, when time moved on and he grew older and matured, he began to have these headaches and these visions that he couldn't quite explain. And through an act of experimentation, because of his technological prowess, he created a device that he was utilizing to help solve a crime spree in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where the story is based. And that device revealed that he had this implant in him. And then he was on another journey to figure out where this implant came from, how it impacted his health, and was it connected to his headaches. And throughout this time, he's also helping his city, Winston-Salem, develop into a technological powerhouse that eventually is going to evolve and become New Salem. And that technology is so powerful. And he decides that, maybe I need to find a way not only to protect the city, but to keep the technology within my city in check so it doesn't impact the world negatively. Yeah. And during this time, he's also fighting against the scientist who is the reason that he's having these issues and these struggles. And this particular scientist is also very powerful in the city. And it's definitely a story about purging of his past while trying to help purge the city that he lives and protect it against the scientist who has all the information that he really needs that gives him a shining light to his past.
Excellent. So once again, into the Afroverse with William Jones, and we are joined by Roosevelt Pitt and Frederick Emmerson. So you were giving this description of Purge, and what I'm hearing is, I'm listening, and like I said, I love history. I'm hearing this story of Black experimentation. I'm hearing this story of kidnapping, which really took me back to the Atlanta child kidnappings and murders. How much did history inspire you and play a role in creating these stories?
For me, it's everything, William. I'm a student of history, and when you hit around the nail on the head, I was a youth when the Atlanta kidnaps happened. So a lot of that is a backdrop or a influence, but also Tulsa the Black Wall Street. Winston-Salem, that will soon to be New Salem, is predominantly Black. And I wanted to create a Tulsa mindset within the citizenry that helped produce this techno city.
Right.
And the best way I've explained it to some people who were not familiar with Purge is think of Wakanda, but take Wakanda and put it in America. And think about how that will look with the political climate that we have here and the history of numerous Black communities being burnt down or flooded or literally destroyed by whites who was jealous of the progress of those Black cities. Imagine how that will look now. You have this technological city, predominantly Black, powerful, politically ran by Black interests, and it's not only powerful technologically within the United States, but global. What would that look like politically? And not that politics has to be a huge forefront of our story, but politics is in everything we do, even if it's subtle and under the surface. So that's going to build the character of New Salem, the city, as well as the characters that live within it. And I'm quite excited about what that's going to look like as a live action movie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited just listening to it. And I have read Purge. I mean, we met some time ago and I too became a fan. So I was so happy that you agreed to come on this show. And, when we're having these type of conversations, we're having this great dialogue and there's so much information to be contained, the time goes quickly. And believe it or not, we're coming up on the close of this episode. So would you guys mind coming back to join me for another conversation to continue this conversation? Because I really want to get into this film because today we're looking at all of these comic properties coming to the big screen, and these are billion-dollar opportunities for these companies. They're making billions of dollars. And I want to talk about how we can help Black independent filmmakers and comic book creators, get just a percentage of that. So would you guys mind coming back?
Oh, definitely.
Excellent. So once again, ladies and gents, this is Into the Afroverse with William Jones, where we're taking Black people into the future. And real quick, can you tell folks how they can reach you?
So for me, you can reach me on Instagram, Frederick Daniel Emmerson. I know it's long, but it's all one word. Instagram, Twitter, Frederick Emmerson. And I'm mostly on Instagram though, so those are probably the best ways to reach me.
And Roosevelt?
Facebook is probably the best bet. I have 2 accounts that people can reach me on Facebook, Roosevelt Pitt and Roosevelt Pitt Jr. I'm also on Instagram under Roosevelt Pitt, where you'll find primarily posts about Purge, my upcoming books, as well as the movie. I'm also on Twitter. Not as often, but I'm there. Crimson Seed 1. Of course, Roosevelt Pitt, but Crimson Seed 1 on Twitter as well. And we are establishing social media accounts and for reaching out for the movie. As soon as those are established and up and running, I can also pass that on to you, Mr. Jones. But look for those. Excellent.
So once again, ladies and gents, if you want to hear part 2 of this conversation, be sure to tune in next week, 10 o'clock a.m. right here on WOLB 1450 AM 95.9 FM, where information is power. And also you can listen to us online at WOLDCnews.com. So for Into the Afroverse, I am your host, William Jones, once again taking Black folks into the future. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time, and we're going to continue this conversation, and I want to thank you for listening. Take care.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.